I'm Dave Hardy, and welcome again to Say What. I loved learning about government, or what we used to call civics, when I was young. And one of my goals this year is to educate you, the viewer, more on the judicial system and how it works. And one of my guests today is key to the judicial system in West Virginia. His name is Sergeant Travis Anderson. Sergeant Anderson, welcome.
Thank you.
You know, we go to these courts and nobody wants to be in court, okay? And sometimes you walk in that courthouse and there sits the guy with the uniform on. And in that case, that would be in the Kanawha County courts, you're one of that group. But before we go there, Sergeant Anderson, or I'll just call you Travis, tell me what led you to get into law enforcement as a career.
As a child, I had several family members in government, law enforcement, and I've known since I was a little boy, you know, that I want to be in law enforcement in some way or another.
And you know, so many times people come to you, or they come to me, or all of us that are older, and say, how do I get in that field? What would you tell a young person, let's say a 17-year-old, because you're out in the community a lot, what do you tell a 17-year-old, boy or girl, when they ask you, how can I wear that uniform? What do you tell them?
I tell them what I was told. When I was 16, I had the opportunity to work at the state police, just a summer job, nothing spectacular. But there, I got to speak with a lot of colonel of the state police, majors. I worked there on Jefferson Road, and you know, I had always had police officers tell me criminal justice, you know, get your college education, and that's the route I was taking. But until I spoke with one of the majors at the state police, he really opened my eyes, and it shocked me because he said an English degree, get you a bachelor's in English. And when he said it, I kind of, you know, questioned, you know, why that would be. And the more he talked about it, it made sense, because literally when you're a police officer, you're constantly articulating what you've seen, what you observed. That's what you do. You're reporting, you know, what you're told, what you see, what you observe. And it just made more sense to me that's probably the route to go, get you an English degree.
So an English major is a good major for a law enforcement career.
That's what I would recommend, because you're going to learn everything you need for law enforcement at the State Police Academy, which is our West Virginia State Police Academy is one of the best in the country. It's one of the best in the country. It's just, they're just great up there. They teach you a lot. So good training.
You zeroed in on law enforcement, but I bet you ended up not majoring in English, right?
I did not. I unfortunately do not like English. But I went the criminal justice route, and I got minors in psychology, sociology, and that's the route I went.
And you attended West Virginia State University?
I did.
That's another plug for West Virginia State University.
Great school.
So many law enforcement officers have graduated there.
And their criminal justice program is excellent. Great teachers. I loved it. I really did.
So then, of course, you entered the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department at that time?
After college, I applied for the Sheriff's Department and went through their testing process. And shortly after that, got the phone call. Sheriff Tucker was in office at that time, and I got hired. I had just turned 22 years old in 2002. And
then they sent you to the State Police Academy in Institute, West Virginia.
Yes, sir. And I was there for 16 weeks. They teach you a lot up there. I mean, it's not easy. You got to want it, because they will definitely weed out the people that do not want it. So
there are students that start there and have been accepted and then don't finish up and leave.
Yeah, I don't know the statistics with that, but I was always told there's always you're probably going to lose about 5 to 10% in your class while you're up there.
So you finished out and you're not even 23 years old, and what was your first step into the Sheriff's Department? Where'd they put you?
midnight shift in the Quincy out east. So
Eastern Kanawha County on the midnight shift.
22 years old.
I bet your mother worried about you.
They did. They did. I loved it out there, though. I'm a St. Albans boy. You know, I didn't, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know where the Quincy Sheriff's Detachment was when they put me out there.
Right.
And
Being
actually, the
raised in
sheriff,
St. Albans, you weren't up in that area that
never. And actually, Sheriff Tucker laughed when I told him that, but he probably thought I was joking, but I wasn't. But went out there. I worked out there for 3 years. I absolutely loved it out there. The people out there were different than where I grew up. There's just a lot of good people out eastern part of the county. It's a large area for the sheriff's department, but I loved working out there.
I have to ask you this, and we'll move on. What's it feel like, and people should hear this, what's it feel like to be riding around in a sheriff's department cruiser by yourself at 3 a.m.?
I enjoyed the freedom. You know, it's a job you have to be proactive. There are a lot of calls you answer, but I did enjoy the freedom that the job presents sometimes. The ability, you know, to be able to be proactive and do what you want. You know, patrol in high crime areas, traffic stops, things like that. But I also enjoyed the midnight shift. A lot of your in progress calls are you know, midnight shift. So
You mean crime in progress?
Yeah, you see a lot more action at that time, and actually I preferred the midnight shift. I really liked it.
Did you ever feel apprehension?
At times. Luckily, you know, if you would get some calls that you would need some backup, those smaller towns out there, they would be happy to come and help you. Bell PD helped a lot with Rand area, and Cedar Grove would help, you know. But great group of people out there, good officers.
At some point, of course, you came off the road and then you went into the judicial system. Is that right?
I did. Johnny Rutherford was a captain in the judicial annex at the time, and I had a little baby boy, and I was rethinking my career and how I wanted to spend the next 20, 30 years. So I was just talking to him one day, and he mentioned an opening in the annex, and I said, you know, Monday through Friday, it sounded like a good family man type job. So next thing I know, within a few weeks, I worked for Judge ZaCabe. I was his bailiff.
And now you've had Judge ZaCabe, Judge Tabbitt, and now me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I had Judge ZaCabe for about 12 years, Judge Tabbitt for 7, and now I'm with you.
Yep, we've been working together about 6 months. And you know, I've been around the courtroom a lot. I've been around Kanawha County Courthouse a lot. But when I came on board, I wasn't quite clear what role the bailiff and the law enforcement people assigned to the annex play. So tell me generally how that works.
We play a lot of roles. First and foremost, court security. You know, we make sure everyone's protected the best we can. Make sure no one gets in the building that shouldn't be, or with, you know, weapons or anything like that. Our primary role, we deal a lot with the inmates, making sure they make it to their hearings, bring them in the courtroom, things like that. I mean, you know, there's a lot of programs and other types of things in the courthouse they'll have us for, like family treatment court, juvenile drug court. There we have the mental hygiene in our building. But and family court. There's a lot of different areas in the building we've got to have play different roles.
Why are courthouses a place where security is very important?
There's so much that happens in the courthouse. I mean, you go from family court, from bad divorces, child custody issues, which are very emotional, and then you can go to the mental hygiene area, and you know you have people that suffer from mental illness. You don't know what you're dealing with that, you know, daily. And then you come up to circuit court. You've got abuse and neglects, where you're taking children from people. You've got criminal hearings where you're sentencing people, for the rest of their life to prison. It's just a multitude of things that could possibly have bad outcomes if you don't have security in there.
Yeah, I think I can sum it up in one word, Sergeant: emotion.
A lot of emotion.
There's a lot of emotion in and around courts.
Yes, sir.
And so the world's changed a lot. People are willing to do things now that they weren't willing to do before. And people are willing to do obvious things like pull out weapons. Tell me, what do we do there to secure the courts?
I don't want to get into detail of what
That's
we do,
right.
but a broad aspect of it, when you first enter the building, they run you through the metal detector. They make sure you don't have any firearms or weapons. Of course, there's cameras everywhere in the building, but there's other security measures in place to where we make sure everybody's as safe as we can make it for the public to come in. So
That's right. And you and I have talked many times. If you go online to Google and you Google courthouse or courtroom outburst, it's amazing what has gone on across our country inside of courtrooms.
it is. Unfortunately, all states and counties are different on how they run their courtrooms. The Kanawha County courthouse is ran very professional. We don't have a lot of incidents, and I give that credit to our security guys at the front door who do a great job making sure things don't get in the building. The guys at the jail, the correctional officers, they do a great job making sure no weapons come from the jail. But we run the building. I'm proud to say we run it very well. We don't have a lot of incidents, or we'll catch them before we have an incident.
You mentioned several courts there, and you mentioned family court, drug treatment court, and of course you have your regular circuit court,
Magistrate.
and then you have magistrate court. Magistrate court never closes, right?
It doesn't. Magistrate court, goes till midnight, and then there are incidents where we may have an arrest at 3 o'clock in the morning, particularly juveniles. We'll call it magistrates and prosecutors and handle it that way. But yeah, the magistrate's always on call. Court doesn't stop. So,
Tell me about family court. Most people are not familiar with it. Tell me about it.
family court. I'm honestly surprised we don't have more incidents in family court. It's extremely emotional down there. Those guys do an excellent job. Our security down there. Lieutenant Dietz is in charge down there currently. He does an excellent job. There's just a lot of emotion down there. There's a lot of hearings that go on at the same time down there. But like I said, those guys do a great job down there. I've unfortunately never worked in family court, but I have had to go down there several times over, some emotional situations that you get down there. But
How about drug treatment court?
I worked with the juvenile drug treatment court for almost 8 years. It's a great program. Judge Abraham currently does that program. A great group of people run that program or on the board for it. We typically have around 20 kids. A lot of them truancy, have drug issues, mild drug issues like marijuana, things like that. We really don't focus on kids that are having a lot of issues. If this is more of a community-based program. But it's a great program. We get grant money. We're able to help families with food, clothing, toiletries, bills, because you can't expect these kids to get help and get back on their feet if they don't have food at the house. They don't have clothes to wear. It's a good program, and Judge Abraham does a great job with it right now. So,
You've been in this quite some time now. What has changed? What has changed, say, in the last 10 years?
Abuse and neglects. That's the one I would say has changed the most. our abuse and neglect docket in 20 years has probably tripled in the past 20 years.
Abuse and neglect being cases where it's been alleged that a parent has abused or neglected a child.
Yes, sir. Yeah. They've definitely tripled over the past 20 years, and those are very emotional cases. DHS, those workers are excellent workers. They're worked to the bone. They're a great group of people. They really need a shout out because our DHS, those guys and girls that go out and investigate and do these cases, they're expected to do so much. They are overworked, but they do such a great job, and they all care. They care about what they do. They really do.
It's amazing, and our viewers, imagine this is your occupation. Your occupation is to go out and investigate alleged abuse and neglect of children. So you literally go to the home many times, or you go to the school and you see this child, and you are then trying to intervene. It may be 30 miles up a hollow somewhere, and there you are.
And they see such a variety of things. I mean, just me as a police officer working the road, calling DHS for kids. I mean, you've got, unfortunately, sex crimes with children, unclean homes, parents with drugs is just such an epidemic in this county, in the state. And lack of supervision. It's you see a multitude of things with these kids and babies, and it's sad. I mean, you see a lot. It's tough sometimes.
You mentioned drugs. What percentage of the people that you encounter is a road deputy or a courtroom bailiff? One of the reasons that they are being investigated is a result of the use of drugs.
I would throw in alcohol. I would say drugs and alcohol. I'd put them together.
Substance abuse.
I would say 95%.
Wow.
95%.
You really, it's literally that prevalent.
If they're not on drugs, it's a drug-involved crime. Yeah, maybe stealing to get the money to get high or things like that.
And then, of course, you mentioned alcohol as well. Is alcohol still play a great role in criminal activity?
Absolutely. One thing I learned as a young deputy, I did not realize at 22 years old, is how many people overdose from alcohol. That was a big shock to me as an early deputy sheriff.
You mean like overwhelm their liver with alcohol?
And actually pass away, yeah.
From alcohol?
From alcohol.
Wow, that wouldn't be something I would think about because you read so much about drug overdoses.
It happens quite often. It's sad.
Where do you think we're headed with? Are we adequately addressing many of these root causes? And I'm talking about alcohol and drugs addiction. I mean, you've seen this evolve from the time of Judge Zacabe. I believe Judge Zacabe left the bench in 2014, all the way up to now.
I think government addresses it the best they can, and the reason I say that is it's a constant evolving. For instance, fentanyl. Fentanyl right now, no one heard of fentanyl 20 years ago. 20 years ago it was methamphetamine. Unfortunately, with drugs, there's always something new out there, and there's always something new to battle. I think the government does its best to try to keep up with that, but it's a constant fight just to keep it where it's at. It really is. I remember when I first started, methamphetamine was really popular here in Kanawha County. We struggled, we really did, keeping up with that. People were leaving meth labs on the side of the road, which was toxic. We'd have to call out special teams from other states to come and clean it up. And then, as time progressed, you see methamphetamine not be as popular, and pills were a problem, and now it's fentanyl. We'll find fentanyl in everything, marijuana, gummies. People just are lacing fentanyl with everything.
Which is just almost like Russian roulette.
Oh, absolutely. Fentanyl is extremely dangerous. Yeah. It takes a very small amount to kill somebody.
Yeah, I know that we've had cases that I've heard about at judicial conferences and things where someone might be using marijuana that they purchased illegally, not from a medicinal dose, but that might be laced with fentanyl.
And we're seeing that more and more. I actually experienced that in the past couple of years with our children, with the kids with juvenile drug court. We were having some issues with fentanyl with that, and their marijuana was laced with it. And we're seeing more and more of that. For whatever reason, we're seeing more and more of that. I don't know why they're lacing it with fentanyl, but.
Oh, probably because it gets people hooked faster.
Would be my guess. That would be my guess, yeah. Or they deal both, and it doesn't take much fentanyl. Just if fentanyl's in the room with the marijuana, it can. That's how strong fentanyl is. It can lace the marijuana easily just by being in the same room with it.
One of the benefits of your job, Sergeant Anderson, and benefit and detriment at the same time, is you interact so much with young people. I mean, teenagers in particular. What message would you give? And I think at times you've gone out and spoke to high schools and been at different places. What message would you give to a young person with respect to this constant barrage of drugs and alcohol?
They're all different. All the kids you talk to are different. I just try to tell them, the music they listen to and things you see on TV, it was the same when I was a kid. Just think before you do something, you know what I mean? A lot of kids nowadays think marijuana's just a normal, everyday, no big deal, comes from the earth, and then I try to tell them, maybe so, but you don't know if you're getting it from someone who got it from someone and it's got fentanyl in it or whatever. I mean, formaldehyde. People cut drugs with anything to make a little bit extra money, and you don't know what you're getting. And unfortunately, you may smoke a joint and it may be laced with fentanyl, and it may be the last thing you do. So, some kids are receptive to it, and others not so much. But you just try to do your best. And also, back to the children with the courthouse, myself, and a couple of the other deputies, we try to make it comfortable for children there. A lot of kids, when they get there, they're scared, and something I personally hate when I walk in the courthouse and I hear parents say, sit down or that cop's going to get you. I don't like it when parents say things like that. I want children to be able to approach us and know we're there to help them. And me and a few of the other bailiffs in the Kanawha County Courthouse, we like to, we'll give kids toys or candy and just try to talk to them and make them comfortable, because they're scared a lot when they're there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, can you imagine being a 6-year-old child in the Kanawha County Courthouse looking at you?
Yeah, right. They either love you or they're scared of you.
Right.
They'll either approach you and want to hug you, or they don't want nothing to do with you.
Right. So. Well, and I have seen you with children, and you're a big teddy bear is what it amounts to. You're very good with young children.
I just try to make them, comfortable, and you don't want to see any child scared or.
Now, unlike most lawyers, you've seen a lot of jury trials.
I have.
And do you have any observations, and having watched jury trials now for 20 plus years, and let's face it, most lawyers don't do jury trials. Do you have any observations about our Kanawha County jurors?
A lot of the jurors are enthusiastic and want to be jurors. That kind of surprises me.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm 44 years old. Do I want to be a juror? Probably not, but who wants to be? But
apparently some people do.
But I've noticed, even the ones that aren't enthusiastic in the beginning they are in the end. They're glad they did it. They're glad they served the community, and a lot of them actually enjoy it. You know, it surprises you, but you know, you see a lot. You know, you learn a lot if you're a juror. You don't know what you're going to be there for. It may be a car wreck or a first-degree murder. So it's interesting to see how people react.
You know, I'm glad to hear you say that because, I mean, we pay the princely sum of $40 a day to be a juror, and you get your mileage from wherever you drive from. And I'm always amazed by the number of people that come and do it with a really good attitude. I think a lot of people view it as sort of a good duty.
Yeah, it's their civic duty, you know, and unfortunately, sometimes you have a few people that don't want to participate, but, you know, I would expect that. But the large majority, you know, they come in and do their civic duty, and I think they're proud of themselves when they leave at the end of the day and know that they did it.
Now, you've been around the courthouse a while, and you've seen a lot of styles. What is the best style for a judge?
The best style for a judge?
I'm listening to this.
It's a good question because there's so many different styles. I don't necessarily know that there's a best style, and I think it's good to have a mixture of the way judges do things because you do have judges that are, I don't like to use the word strict, but are more harsh on crime, and you have some that are more laid back. Both work well because people are so different. You know, for instance, you know, as a police officer, I can pull someone over and give them a warning, a verbal warning, and they'll probably never speed again in their life. It'll scare the death of them. But others, you may have to issue a citation and tow their vehicle 3 or 4 times before they, you know, understand that they can't do it. But it's the same way with the judges. You know, we've got a great group of judges there. I think they all know when they need to be harsh and when they know they can put a little bit more faith in that person and give them a break. And, you know, it's experience. It's once you talk to people and learn how people react to certain punishments and things like that. Because we've got home confinement, we've got probation. You know, there's a multitude of different ways of handling things as a judge. So,
you know, my general impression is you're better off just to be truthful when you're caught than try to lie your way out. It never seems to end well when people try to lie their way out.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the route most people go. But yeah, I mean, you know, when you do see people, especially with drug crimes that really come in and own up to it, typically those are the ones that are ready to change their life. They're tired of that drug culture and you know, running from the law, and they just want some help and want to get back on their feet.
Well, that's a good way to end our conversation today. And Sergeant Anderson, thanks for everything you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me. So,
well, I hope that we can continue to educate the public about the judicial system in our state, the great state of West Virginia. Keeping you informed on the Library Network, I'm Dave Hardy. Thanks for watching. Say What?